me, author Alexandria Infante, here with not a review. So, okay, in this indie genre and book genre per se, there are certain books that I don't read. Um, not that it's not that I can't read them, it's just that I choose not to. So, tonight's review was scheduled to be Fatima Monroe's Fascinated by a Billionaire, A Vampire's Tale. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to push it back, and Jen is going to actually review it. Personally, I don't read extramarital books. So, I'll just put it out there for y'all. I was a wife that was cheated on. So, I don't, it's not my thing. So, that's just a personal thing. So, I don't really read that, anything that has to do with extramarital affairs. Now, I'm not talking about like reverse harem. Reverse harem, that's different because I actually write reverse harem. So Ariana, she has, but I write reverse harem paranormal. So I don't stick that in my contemporary. I guess maybe I feel like, paranormal is more of a fantasy. So if you got werewolves and Ariana is mated to 5 guys, basically. She's married to 5 guys. So she's married to a vampire, a demigod, a god, actually 2 gods, because so it's a vampire, a werewolf, a demigod, and 2 other gods. And so basically it's because of a spell and a papyrus spell that Sekhmet read, and she did this to her on purpose because she thought it was funny. But anyway, so reverse harem, I'm okay with that in the paranormal world. But it just, I don't know, I guess it's weird, but just like in contemporary, I really don't like it. So, to give her a honest and justifiable review, because I feel like if I continue reading it, because I started reading it, and that's pretty much how I know that the main character has like extramarital affairs, and at that moment she's in an extramarital affair. So I just feel like in order for it to be done justice and to get an unbiased review, Jen's going to read it. So she's actually reading it right now. So we're gonna push that. We're going to push that review back till Jen finishes with the book. And then we're going to do Fatima Monroe's Fascinated by a Billionaire, Vampire's Tale. So tonight we're actually going to substitute it with Kenisha Knowles, Catering to an Alpha. So basically, this is part of her. So far, she's got 3 books in the series. She's got Blood Moon over Seattle, and we already did a review on that. And then and then the next book in the series is Catering to an Alpha, and then the 3rd book is A Satiated Alpha. So today we're just going to substitute and review her Catering to an Alpha. So the book takes place in Mystic, Connecticut. And so Samantha, not Samantha, but Samantha is actually a culinary student. At this point in time, she's in she's doing her exorship. So I don't know if you guys know this, but I am an executive chef. I think I've said it like 20 million times by now. And okay, so this is the first book to this series. What is going on? My Kindle has been acting so weird lately. Y'all better not give me no virus. um, so basically, so she, this is the first book in the series is Blood Moon over Seattle, and we did a review for this um, week before. I think it was the first week that we began the channel. It was like it was our first week here, and you know what? I don't have the book on here. Well, at least the first book. I thought I did. Oh, girl, I'm sorry. Um, I did have it because we did well, anyway. Okay. So, the first book is called Blood Moon over Seattle. And then the second book is called Catering to an Alpha. And this is the cover, so you guys can see it. It's called Darn it. Okay, can you guys see that? It's called Catering to an Alpha, and it's Pack Coalition. And it's book 2. And y'all need to stop laughing at my glasses, because I know you are right now, because they look all jacked up. I'm getting the new ones tomorrow. Anyway, so this is the second book. It's called Catering to an Alpha. So this book takes place in Mystic, Connecticut, like I said, Mystic, New London, Connecticut. And so Samantha she worked for corporate, Google, at some point, and then she decided or a corporation like Google, and she decided that that wasn't what she wanted. She was sick of the 9 to 5. She was tired of, just always just on the grind, So she decided to go to culinary school. So she goes to culinary school and she gets her degree. And so now, at the point in which the book opens, she's doing her exorship. And what an exorship means is, in my day when I went to culinary school 23 years ago, my youngest boy is 23, and he cracks up all the time. He's like, "Dang, Mom, you've been a chef as long as I've been alive." And so, you had to do an internship. So I actually did my internship at the Lot Studios in Hollywood under Chef Bobby Mendoza. He was so cool. But he felt really, really bad that he couldn't pay me, because back in those days, an internship, culinary school made you do an internship. And basically you would work 6 months, anywhere from 3 to 6 months for free, basically, learning under a master chef to actually run a kitchen. Now, although Le Cordon Bleu it had master chefs, and we were taught in the classroom. I mean, we had people like Emeril Lagasse, Bobby Flay, all of these people, actually, Wolfgang Puck actually showed up at our school, but that was in school. You still had to do an internship before you could really apply for a job as a chef, because the first thing they would ask you was, well, where did you do your internship? And so I did mine under Bobby at the Lot Studio in Hollywood. And so he couldn't pay me for that, because you weren't allowed to get paid. So he was like, "Hey, wait the tables." And because it was a movie studio, there was no lunch or breakfast. I mean, there was no breakfast or dinner. It was just a lunch crowd. And so basically I would do my internship in the morning, and then I would wait the tables in the afternoon. It was some of the coolest time. I met a bunch of people like Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, Kevin Costner. It was the most awesome place to work, because I wasn't star-studded. And so my floor supervisor, she would always make me take these tables. "Vince Vaughn, you rock forever." He gave me $170 tip. He the man. Anyway, so basically this is what she's doing. She's doing her exorship. Well, which is what they call it now. An exorship means that you can be paid minimum wage now. Whereas in my day, it was an internship. Now today, it's an exorship. And so you can be paid the basic minimum wage for basically continuing your study program, pretty much is what it is. This is what, like real chefs have to do. And so she's at this point in time, she's doing her exorship under the master chef, Jose. But he's like a bitchy queen. I could say bitchy queen. I have 2 gay children. Anyway, and so basically, her and him, they're like basically, she's working for him, and everyone has told her that she shouldn't work for him because she's really like intelligently smart. She knows her stuff, but he knows his too. And he's been in the business longer than her. And so basically what he's attempting to do is to refine her, to get her to be a better chef by always giving her crap. I had a boss like that. Oh my God, he was insane. And he used to throw hot saute pans across people's faces like that. And you'd be like, what? I mean, he was the first Gordon Ramsay in America. Dana Dare. It's like he had a porn name. Can I say porn on here? Oops, I forgot. But anyway, and so basically, he's like the worst, but he's doing it for a reason. Because even me, when I was in culinary school, I was freaking like my early 20s. I didn't understand. I just was like, you're a butthole. And it was to teach you to get, to be able to deal with that pressure, all that stuff. But anyway, and so she goes, he sends her out on a job. And she arrives late because it's traffic. She didn't gauge the traffic. She lives in New York City. So basically what she does is she drives up to Connecticut every day. And which is technically not as far as it's sounding, because you can actually take the train, the PATH train. I believe it is. Or do you have to actually get the Greyhound? I can't remember. But anyway, you can take the train. It's only like a couple of hours. So if you go with morning traffic, you could drive there in like two hours, I believe it is. I'm gonna have to look that up. I think it's 2 hours. Anyway, and so she drives to Connecticut every day to do this internship and to, work under, what is it called? Let me see, because he got a fancy name. A fancy name. Darn it. I can't find it. Anyway, so he sends her to do a catered lunch for this big corporate. It's a big corporate publishing company, Stone and Teller Publishing. So he sends her there, and she's supposed to set up this corporate lunch, which basically, it takes a minute to set it up because you got Bunsen burners, you got all this stuff. And so she goes, which, as you guys can tell, I really like this book because it was the chef. And so she sets up everything. She arrives late because she didn't think like Mystic, Connecticut, New London. She didn't think there was going to be any traffic. Come on. It's like a 1-horse town. But this guy, Nate Stone, he owns, the Stones own practically almost all of the stuff in this town. And so she shows up late, she calls, and she gets the girl Khalees, who basically answered, who set up the appointment. And so she's like, yeah, I'm running a little bit late. I'm so sorry. I'm parking the car. I'll be there in just like a few minutes. And so she rushes out. She sets up everything. She's getting it going. And then Khalees walks in, and Khalees is like, yeah, Mr. Stone would like to see you when you're done. And so, she's thinking, oh crap, man, because I'm late. And now he's going to be pissed off because I am late. So she gets everything set up. And so she walks in, she knocks and she walks into his office, and he's like, come in, and he's on the phone. And so, no, actually he's on the phone this time. And so he's like, he tells her come in, and then he's like, I have an issue with late lunch or something like that. And then she's like, she goes to like, he gets up out of his desk. Gets up from his desk, walks around the desk where she's standing, and she's like, well, sir, blah, blah, and he goes like this. And she's just like, basically, and he like closes her lips, and he's like, no, I don't take excuses. And so she like backs up, and she's like, well, first off, and he's like, no, there is no first off. And so she turns around, he grabs her, and he sits her on his desk, and she's like, what the hell? And he he takes like the piece of paper that's on the side and he like brings it next to her and he looks down at the paper. She looks down at the paper and it's a contract. And it's basically saying he would pay her $150,000 to sleep with him. And she's like, you done lost your ever mind. And so she's like, yeah, is that all? Your lunch is set up, blah, 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 blah. I think we're done. If you need anything else, please call Jose and he can deal with whatever it is that you need. And so she like hightails it out of there. And so he's sitting there dying laughing. And then he goes over to the window and he watches her like run out of his building. And so he's laughing hysterically. And then Khalees comes back in and she was like, I know you did not give that girl that contract, blah, 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 blah. And so they start talking or whatever. And then, so he's like, he's like, she's like extremely beautiful. So, I forgot to say, this is a black woman, white male romance. So, Samantha is African American, but I think she's like Creole. So she's a black Creole woman. So basically what that means is Creole. I'm not sure if you know it. You have two versions of it. You have the French, which is basically French and Spanish, and then you have the black Creole, which is like us Afro Latinas, because I have some Creole blood too. My aunt. So basically, what Creole is pretty much what I am too. It's black, Spanish, and French. So you have that Creole, and then you have just the French and Spanish Creole. So basically, this character, I believe, is Creole as well. And so she, because not to mention she's from Louisiana. And so she like hightails it out of there and she's just like, whatever, I'm not dealing with this guy, blah, 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 blah. And then she gets to her car and then she starts laughing because she thinks about it. She's like, well, dang. She didn't say dang, but he was offering me $100,000. And she was like, if it wasn't, if I had some student loans, I might actually think about that. Right? And so I thought that part was hysterically funny. So anyway, so then she goes back to the office. Her and Jose get into it because he's like, what did you do? And she's like, I didn't do anything. He said something that was very inappropriate to me. And then so Jose is like, it is our utmost blah, 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 blah to please the customer. And she was like, yeah, not this way. And so they get into it and she goes, you know what, whatever. I don't even have to take this. And then so he goes, if you don't want to take it, then there's the door. And so she's like, whatever. And so she quits. And then she leaves, right? And so she gets on the phone. She's talking to her bestie, Mona. And so her and Mona have known each other practically all their lives since they were like 4 and 5. And Mona is Caucasian. And Mona is like her like diehard, girl. And so they're on the phone talking. And Mona's like, what did you do, Samantha? Because from what I'm reading, she's got like that little, sweet, sweetie, no, I know how you act. And she's like, no, I didn't do anything. He asked me something that was very inappropriate and I just walked out because I didn't even tell him what I really felt. And so she's like, okay, well, let me look, blah, 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 blah. We'll go out for drinks and then we'll just start looking for something else next week because Mona works in the actual agency which is like a staffing company for cater companies, basically the hospitality industry. So we have one here in California. It's called Culinary Staffing. They rock. I've worked for them like God since I got out of culinary school, off and on since 2002, I believe it is. And it's called Culinary Staffing of America. So if anyone needs a chef job or a culinary job, check them out. But anyway, and so she works for a staffing company. And so Mona is part of the dispatch, or she runs that portion of it. And so she says, okay, we'll look into it. We'll find something else next week, but let's go out for drinks. And then it pans over to Nate. Now, Nathaniel Stone. He runs half of this town. He is a cabin werewolf. She has no clue about this, at least first. So he's a werewolf. And basically, Khalees is like, why'd you give that girl that da 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 da? And he's like, I thought it was funny. I just wanted to see what her reaction was. And she was like, you know what, Nate? If you would like to date a black woman, there are so many other ways that you could do this. Because obviously this is like a thing that he does. He's obviously attracted to black women. And so Nate is actually British and Native American. So his mother is Native American and his father is British. And so she's like, if you're actually attracted to black women, you could just ask her out. All this drama that you do, he's like, no, because then I would have to have a relationship, blah, 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 blah. So basically he's like this bachelor who does not want to commit. And then not to mention he a dog, a wolf. So Khalees thinks this is hysterically funny, and then so she grabs the paper that he wanted Samantha to sign, and she starts reading it, and he's trying to take it from her, and so she's going like this, and she's like, oh, you nasty, right? So she's just doing all this, and then finally he gets her from her, and she's like, you could do all of that, and he was like, yep, that's why they call me Alpha, right? And so basically, then James comes in and they start talking. And so then it pans back over to Samantha. And so Samantha, it's Monday. And so she starts going out for all of these jobs. And then it's like by Friday, every job that she has gone on has looked at her resume and said, oh my God, look, the qualifications are amazing. And then like the secretary or the temp or whatever walks in, hands the person that she's interviewing with a little post-it. And then they say, oh, you know what? The job has just been filled. And so by Friday, she's like, what the ever loving, you know what? And so she calls up Mona and she's like, okay, is Jose blacklisting me? Because it makes no sense that every time I try to go and get a job, they love me. They're about to hire me. And then some, receptionist or secretary comes in and hands them a little post-it. And they're like, no. She's like, and so Mona's like, she's freaking out. She's like, okay, let me check. And then she goes in and she goes, wait, there's a mark on your calendar. And then she's like, what? And then she's like, I don't know. Let me switch you over to Juanetta. And so she gets Juanetta, and Juanetta's like, girl, what you done did? So I can just imagine her, what this character looks like. So she's like, girl, what you done did? And she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, you have a blacklist on your file. And then so she's like, I have no clue what you're talking about. I haven't been, is it from Jose? And she's like, no, Jose, he let you go, but he said that he respects you. He loves your work. It's just that he said you have no focus. And then so she's like, whatever, I don't care what he said. And so Juanetta keeps digging, and then so she goes, oh, you was blacklisted by Mr. Stone. And so she was like, no, I didn't say anything to him. And so she's like, yes, so you need to fix this, because if you don't, you are not allowed to go out on any, so basically, if she doesn't fix this, she can't be sent out to any other company until this, like, Blythe is taken off of her record. So she's like, oh my God, what a jerk off. What a blah, 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 blah. Because remember, this book is 18 plus. And so she goes, okay, I'm done. And Juanetta's like, go get your money, girl, because if you don't fix this, you won't get any. And so she clicks her back over to Mona. Mona's like, Sam, just make sure you're calm. I'm dying laughing. It's like, just make sure you're calm. And she's like, no, I'm fine. And then she's like, no, I know you, Sam. And so she goes, okay, fine, I'll call you back. And so she does a U-turn. She gets off the turnpike. She turns around and she's going back to Connecticut. And so she goes back to his publishing company. She's like hot by this time. She was gonna put her blazer on and she's like, no. And so she takes it off. She throws it in the car. She locks up and she is like stepping at least that's the way the book says, And she's like on one. She goes up the elevator. She goes in. She gets it, snatches open the double doors, and she is like strutting. You know how we women of color get when we pissed off. And so she is like seriously strutting. People are looking over their cubicles like, who the heck is that? And then so she walks in, the secretary's like, Mr. So, she's like, miss me with all that. And she goes through and she opens his door and she's like, you a-hole. No one will hire me. And then so he's on the phone and like remember he's British and native. So he's like, Jerry, let me ring you back. Yeah, I got a problem here. Right? So he basically tells whoever he's talking to, let me ring you back. And then he puts the phone down and then he walks out from behind his desk and he sits on like this. And you know how dudes are, this is the way she says it. He sits on the edge of his desk and he's like, not very not very much men would call me that. But obviously you feel like I've done something to warrant being called that. And then she's like, you know what you did. So she like struts over to him. And she's like, and you're going to change it. And he was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And so they're like nose to nose. And when that's how pissed off she is and she's not thinking. And so she's like in his face and they're nose to nose. And then he kisses her just like out of the blue. And when he kisses her, it's like the book says like the power like reverberates through the entire building. Like a couple of the windows shattered. And then, it was like an earthquake. And she freaks out. And so she jerks back from him. And he's like, Sam, wait, because she goes running. And so she runs out the building. She gets to the elevators and she was going to wait. But then she decided, no, I can't. And so she runs down the stairs. And the line was crazy. I was laughing because she was like, I'm going to kill myself with these damn stilettos on. And so basically she takes off the shoes and just starts hauling butt. She gets to her car and she turns on, she's hyperventilating and she's driving and then the phone starts ringing and she knows who it is because then you find out right here that she's actually an elemental witch. And so she gets back to Manhattan and by the time she gets there, she can no longer control the magic. So the phone's ringing, she answers the phone, she starts bawling because it's her nan. And so she's like, I need you. And then it pans and the nan comes up. And then basically what it is that she was so powerful as a witch when she was 15. She practically set her cousin on fire because he pissed her off. And she would have these episodes where teenage hormones and anger and depression and all that stuff would spiral out of control. And because of the type of witch that she is, she couldn't control it. So her nan and the witches' council bound her magic. So basically, when she kissed him, he is an alpha werewolf. He had no clue that he was a supreme. And so when she kissed him, both the magic and the power cemented onto each other, which is why everything started exploding. And then she basically kicked in his supreme alpha status and he broke the bond or the bond that was binding that magic from like years ago when she was 16 years old. He snapped it like that because of what he is. And so when she ran home, and her nan got there, her nan was like, who in the devil broke this? Because this is 3 Verde witches cast this spell on you. It could not be broken by anyone because the nan and the Elder Witches Council, the way she explains it, is they're called Verde witches, which basically means green. They're like the ones that are like way up there. Everyone else is below a Verde, which is in this universe. And so she, so basically when he broke the spell, the nan was like, that's your mate. And she's like, no, I'm not about to be mated to a werewolf. They're crazy. They're full of rage. No, that's never happening. And so basically, the nan is like, you know what? They're the ones that love hard, though. And so basically, they have their little tete-a-tete. And then it pans back over to Nate. And Khalees walks in his office, and she was like, what did you do? Because my girl was on one when she was strutting toward this office. And so he just sat there and just started laughing. And then James, his second, James walks in and he's laughing too. And he was like, yeah, we felt, the entire building felt it. What was that? And then he frowns because now the reality of what she said or what happened hits him. And he's like, I think I blow just found my mate. And then she's like, what? And so Khalees she just can't control the laughter. She's laughing so hard. And he's like, this isn't funny. And she's like, yes, it is. And so he's like, okay. And then James is like, okay, but this would be good because we would actually have a lupa for the pack. It's been, we've never had one because the one thing that Nate refuses to do is to get married. And so they're like, are you going to go and get her? And he's like, no. And then they're like, you have to. It's for the benefit of the pack. And so he like grumbles and then he snatches up his his sports coat and he walks out. And then he goes to his British mate, DeAndre. And so he's like, I don't know what to do about this because he's like, I'm not ready for, no, he goes to his mate, Antoine. And so he's like, he's British too, and he's like, no, I don't know what to do about this. I'm not ready for a mate. And then Antoine is a psychologist, so he's like, but what are the ramifications? Why are you not ready? Because one, it benefits the pack. Two, the comfort of a mother, blah blah blah. He's just telling him all this stuff, and so he's just sitting there like, from what I'm reading in the book, he's like, because he doesn't want to hear this. He's telling him everything that he knows on his own. And so basically, he's like, well, what do I do? He's like, I gave her this proposal. I did this. I did that. She's not going to want to see me. She's going to be like, you butthole, right? So he's like, you could start with flowers. And so basically, he goes, at least that way you prove that you're not all a twat. That's what he says. And so basically, so he's like, gives him the, and then he leaves his office and then he goes to find her. And so by the time he finds her, the magic that when she was with her nan, she was telling her nan, bind it back. And the nan's like, no. And she's like, what do you mean no? And she's like, that's your mate. I'm not about to. And she's like, but now we're witches. No witch beside Aunt Eloise has ever been mated to a werewolf. And look how they treat her. I don't want that life. And she's like, plus, I don't want to be married to a freaking werewolf. And so she's like, no. And the nan's like, no. She's like, but nan, please. And then she's like, bye, baby. And she leaves her there. So the magic is building all of this time. And because of the fact that at least I gleaned, because of the fact that Nanette is her name, the grandmother, because she is a Verde witch, she probably already knows he's on his way. So she was like, bye. And so she's like yelling her name, even to the part where she's like, Nanette, get back here. Right? And grandma just gone. And so like 10 minutes later, when the magic is like so uncontrollable, because the only way she could control that is through passion. Y'all get that, right? So her neighbor's like beating on the wall because she's like, she's yelling, right? And she's like, shut up, Joshua. And so she goes over, someone knocks on the door and she's automatically ready to curse her neighbor Joshua out. So she snatches open the door and it's Nate. And so she's like, oh, and so she like basically pitches herself into his arms and then, well, I'm sure you understand. And so basically after that, he's like, you're my mate. And she's like, so? And he's like, no, there is no so. And she's like, I don't want to be married to a werewolf. And he's like, yeah, well, that kind of really doesn't matter because you're my mate. And so basically he forces her to go. But he doesn't force her, of course, because she has a very strong personality. And so he gets her to go to his compound. I'm like, what I really liked about this book is this series is completely Native American. So they didn't work off of like my characters in Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn series. that is off the Scottish version of werewolves. So instead, they don't do the only, okay, like Lugaroo. If you know anything about werewolves, you have Lugaroo, you have Skinwalkers, and you have the Greek version. So the Greek version trickled down to Romans, Romulus and Remus, which technically they never. It doesn't say, history doesn't say there were werewolves, but because of the fact that the werewolf suckled them, and then Romulus and Remus went on to conquer. Well, actually, Romulus didn't. Remus, he got killed before anything happened. But anyway, because of the fact that Romulus and Remus were suckled by the she-wolf, this is where you get the Roman version of the werewolf. And then you have the Scottish version, which actually comes from Greeks way long ago, and it basically trickled down, and then the Scots took it, and then Norwegians, and it just spread over to Visigoths, Celtic, and so those are the ancient ones. That's what my werewolves and the Teacher Between Midnight and Dawn series. But this series goes off the Skinwalker. And so I have the same with my in my Married to a Werewolf, which is the Matrimony series. That is a female alpha who basically they go off of the Spanish and the Native American version of the werewolf. So in here, I really like that too because everything is native. She's working off the Skinwalker, and she even actually and so basically the entire, when she goes into this lodge, everything in it is of Native American descent. Because if you remember, the main character, Nate, the main lead, Nate, he is half British, half Native. His mother is Native American, and his father was a British etymologist. So, basically, years and years ago. So, when he bit his mother was like 19, 20. Well, now this is like, Nate is, I think Nate is 600 years old. Yeah, in the book, he's 600 years old. So, that would have been like the 18th century, I think. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Something like that. 600? I think it's 600. Yeah. Anyway, that would have been way, way a long time ago. I would have to actually do the math, and I don't feel like doing it. But anyway, so, yeah, so he would have, so basically everything about this world is, she incorporates the Native American aspect of it. And so he goes to, he basically, once he brings her to the complex, and the whole point now is to get her to be his mate. And now a bunch of things happen along the way, but I'm going to stop there because the review is getting very long. But it is a very, very, very good book. And if I had to star it, and not just because she's my mate, because I love everything that she does, most of her stuff, at least. I didn't like the first book too much. It was like, no, I'm just joking. The first book didn't catch me. I mean, come on, I'm gonna be honest. I love Kenny. She's my homie. She's my housemaid. But the first book didn't really catch me that much. I'm waiting for the fourth book because the fourth book goes back to Cole, Case, and Casada. And I think maybe because I feel like I just always felt like if she would have worked in the triplicate in the beginning of the book, then readers wouldn't have been pissed off when they found out that it was, like, I guess, oh, hey, so that would be reverse harem too. That's right. You know, it's so crazy. We came out with, Ariana's series came out in 2011, and I've been doing this since 2011, and I would get reviews where people would be like, that's just gross. She has like 3, 4, 5 different men, and people would say that was gross, but now it's like this big thing when there's authors like me, Kenisha, and a whole bunch of other ones who were doing it long ago, but we didn't get the recognition for it. But anyway, let me stop. So this would be a reverse harem. Well, not this one. Um, Catering to an Alpha, no, because she's just with Nate. And I really want you guys to pick up this book because it's really, really good. Um, Basically, there's 3 books so far in the series. And so I'm looking at my glasses. There's 3 books so far in the series. And this one is the second book. Blood Moon over Seattle is the first. Catering to an Alpha is the second, and then A Satiated Alpha is the third. And more than likely, we'll probably review that one too, because that one I love the most. Oh my God, it's his brother. It's Nate's brother, Matthias, Max, and he is just. Oh my God, he's like that dude, that like he has a little thug in him, so you're just like, yes, baby. No, I'm just joking. Anyway, this is not a children's channel. So, this is the actual book. Like I said, it's called Catering to an Alpha, Pack Coalition, and it's Kenisha Knowles. And this is a black woman, white man series. So, each of the men that are in this universe, they are white. Case and Cole, Nate, Max, and then I don't know the fourth book, she is bringing back the trio, so I don't know exactly how that's going to go yet, but this book I really enjoyed because Nate is hysterically funny and he brings it and he is that alpha male. So if you want a werewolf like witch series, because each of the witches in this series are elemental witches. And I like that too, because you get the normal, you always get the normal witch, because like my series, they all have witches. And they're different, they're more priestesses, like Egyptian priestesses, because that's the premise of it, but it's all witchcraft, it's all magic. So I like this because she incorporated the elemental side of it, and each of these witches is an elemental. And so I don't want to tell you any more about the book, because what happens between her and her homie Mona, you're just gonna be like, what? Because after he takes her home to the pack coalition. And there's this, but I do have to tell you this scene. There's this one scene where he introduces her. Basically, everyone knows that she's going to be his maid, and they walk into the dining hall. So it's like this big, huge, lodge type dining hall, and they walk into there, and people were bowing, like this, and they're all happy that here's the alpha, and he finally found his mate, because for 600 years he was like, no, that mate, you know what? I'm not working with that. And so they're walking in, and she goes to sit the throne, and all of a sudden someone goes, you dare to bring her here? And so everyone turns and is like, oh, and it's the ex-girlfriend. And he's like, she's like, basically, you disgrace us all, blah, 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 blah. And so it's like a little racial tint to it, is how I took it. Because she's like, she's not saying anything. Samantha is just sitting there like, ooh, what's going on? And so he's like, Hala, you need to leave, blah, 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 blah. And so they start going on. And then, so she charges him. She's like, I hate you. You said blah, 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 blah. And then, so she like pulls out a knife. He grabs her by the throat, slams her into the floor, and takes the knife from her and puts it back at her throat. And so Samantha is like screaming his name. She's like, Nate, what are you doing? That's a woman, blah, 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 blah. And then he looks at her, and he, like, his eyes turn yellow, and he growls, and he's like, he calls for like his guard, and they take her, and he's like, take her out of here. And then Samantha is like freaking out, and he was like, no one, not even you, will ever disrupt my rule, or something like that. And so Samantha is like, F this. She's like, screw this. And so she goes to leave, and he's like, no. And so he follows her out, and he's like, they get into it, and she's like, that's a woman. You put hands on a woman like that. And he was like, no, that's not a woman. Secondly, she basically disgraced you, not me. And so once he starts telling her all this, she's still like, I don't care. Maybe I made a mistake. And so that hurts him because he's like, you actually said that you wanted to be here. And like, basically that. So their relationship already starts off tumultuous because of the fact that she doesn't understand this world. So she was going from you don't put hands on a woman, but this is not a woman. This is a werewolf. She could just as easily kill him as he could kill her. So basically, which is what she tried. So check this book out. Seriously, guys, go and get it. It's awesome. I love the first book is okay. Come on, I have to be honest. The first book is okay. Like it was good, right? But 2 and 3 like slap, as my son would say. They slap, like they are like fire, because I love Nate and I love Max even more because he's even better. And so Max and Nate are brothers. And then I like Cole more than I like Case in the first book. And like there were some readers who were saying, just let her go to Cole then. But it's like the parameters of the 3 of them. Because there are like there's awesome stuff about Case that you like, and then there's awesome stuff about Cole that you like, and so you're just like, get it together, people. So I'm hoping like book 4 they got it together. But anyway, so this is the book. Once again, it's by Kenisha Knowles, and it's called Catering to an Alpha Pack Coalition. And it's book 2. Book 1 is Blood Moon over Seattle. And book 2 is Catering to an Alpha. Book 3 is a Satiated Alpha. And then I believe book 4 is going to be A Pack is a Pack or something like that. Because she's bringing the beginners back. So this is the book. Go out and get it, guys, because I'm telling you, it is so good. And oh my gosh. Okay, so if it is interracial, and if I had to pick a sizzle meter, y'all, this is a 12. So if you like risque, there's this one scene. Oh, never mind. I can't say it. That's right. But anyway, he has her by the hair like this. Anyway, so they're like the scenes in this book are like hot, hot, hot. So you guys really need to go out and get it if you like erotic romance, because that's what this is. This is a paranormal erotic romance series. So every book that she brings is on a 12 level. Like, they're not tamed. Kenny does not write tame. Like, I write, but because I'm a teacher, I try not to use the P and the C word, because I have students. Even though I teach college, I still have students who might go and pick up a book by Alexandria Infante. So I don't use those words. But then I don't use purple. I try not to use purple prose either, because that's just annoying, especially words like moist. So basically, this is a level 12, and she brings the heat in every one of these books. So go out, pick it up. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Have a glass of wine and just chill and read. And that is pretty much it for tonight. Remember, once again, the book Fascinated by a Billionaire by author Fatima Monroe will actually be done by Jen. So, tomorrow we will be reading Call Numbers. This book, actually, he was one of the first people who signed up. And somehow, when Jen was doing the books and she was sending them to me, somehow his book never got on there. So I am so sorry, because he was I'm speaking like he was the first person who said, yo, let me get in on this. And so, basically, tomorrow we will be reviewing. Just a second. Actually, I'm sorry, it's in my Kindle. Sorry, I'm in my Nook right now. Because I want to make sure that we get it right. Get it right. Get it right. Get it right. Get it tight. No, sorry. Come on, you know some Miss New. Darn it. Okay, so I'm not finding it. I know it's on my Kindle. Cuz I don't want to just be like I want to say his name. And for some reason it's not coming up. Ah, here we go. Okay. Sintel Smith. There we go. So it's called Call Numbers, The Not So Quiet Life of Librarians, and it's by Sintel Smith. Now, I already started reading this book, and I like it. This isn't his review, but I really like it because it has to do with librarians. Anything that has to do with, like, intellectual aspects, I love. So, tomorrow, we will be reviewing Call Numbers by Sintel Smith. And that is pretty much it, guys. Love you. Thanks for subscribing. Please continue to subscribe. Please continue to click that little button down there. We are trying to get 1,000 subscribers so YouTube will like really recognize our channel. I know we're only on 88 and I really thank you guys too. 88 to me is like a million still. So please subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe, send in your author friends, and don't forget, like bi-weekly, we will be giving away awesome prizes too. So make sure you tell your friends, have them subscribe, and click that little button too. And peace and love, y'all. I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow. I love you. Tomorrow.